we'll kick off with the dairy speed date, which means just a nice talk to get to know each other very shortly. It's only a couple of minutes and everything will happen automatically and you will be brought back to the main session again. Then our president, Mr. Ad van Velde, he will give an introduction about global dairy farmers, and he will also introduce our two speakers, Heleen Lansink-Marissen and Holger Kruse from Holm and Laue. And after each presentation, there will be a short moment for the Q&A, and all the other very important questions as well will be asked and answered during the live discussion at the end of both. Yeah, so let us hear what our president has to say about global dairy farmers. And yeah, look forward to hear your story. And fire away.
Welcome to this webinar of global dairy farmers. As global dairy farmers, we are glad that this webinar is about the future. Holger is always speaking about the future because his company, Holm and Laue, is a specialist in every aspect around calves, calf rearing, and the first month of a cow's life. Our second guest, actually our first speaker, is Heleen Lansink. And sometimes it looks like that Heleen is the last positive farmer in the Netherlands. And we are very proud to have Heleen and Holger at this GDF webinar. My name is Ad van Velde, dairy farmer in the Netherlands, and since 2017, president of this very special group of farmers and business partners. First, something about global dairy farmers. It's a unique network of practicing dairy farmers from all over the world. Visionary, progressive, looks across borders, and positive. We organize all kinds of activities. Recently more online, but otherwise more physical events as well. Our first physical event was at VIV MEA, VIV MEA, a week ago in Abu Dhabi. There's happening a lot around the world in agriculture, as well in dairy farming and in the dairy industry. Many challenges, many opportunities, but also threats. As GDF, we look at what's going on in the world. What are trends in certain regions? And what does the future like in certain countries? We always try to make the connection with dairy farms. Why are certain dairy farmers successful and other less successful? We talk about this within GDF, but also together with our business partners. Being a member of GDF also means sharing visions, gaining inspirations from other members or from the conferences and events we organize. GDF membership is also part of modern entrepreneurship. The international dairy industry is moving. The sector is in the spotlights. Many countries, the number of dairy farmers is rapidly decreasing. In my opinion, the time for cooperation is now more important than ever. And GDF plays a role in this cooperation. Before I will introduce Heleen, I'd like to tell something else. Since 2 months, I'm a member of another international network of farmers. Of course, by far not the level of GDF. Not I'm kidding. It's nice and it is a very professional network. When I was nominated to join, it surprised me that storytelling is actually the basis of that network. And actually, I think that we as dairy farmers do far too little storytelling, telling our story to the public, to passers-by, or to our consumers. And on top of that, we Dutch are perhaps a bit too down to earth or too modest. It's easy to make the bridge to Heleen now. I don't know her very well, but I do see her in the media a lot. She seems like a very driven farmer, super enthusiastic and a real storyteller, I think. Plus, she's a Nuffield scholar, and Global Dairy Farmers has a very close relationship with Nuffield. Heleen, floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Ad and Global Dairy Farmers, to give me the stage tonight, at this evening. I'm very honored to be presenting at this high level of experts, dairy farmers worldwide. So thank you very much. Well, this is me. Next slide, please. Not always easy to look at myself, but you have to get used to it if you want to tell stories. So this is me and my family. We live on a dairy farm in the east of the Netherlands. We milk 90 cows, 40 young cattle. We have 50 hectares of grass and 8 hectares of corn. I became a farmer when I married my husband. I'm an educated teacher at physical education and health and welfare. And when I married my husband, it was the easy choice to also become a member in the farmers company, because all of the financial rules and all kinds of things. And I was wondering what could be my role on the farm. I'm an educated teacher. My job was telling stories to children. Hopefully they will learn something. But I was thinking, how can I use that kind of expertise into our dairy farm? Because I saw some big issues coming at us. And yeah, well, that's me. Next slide, please, Yvonne. So I tipped it already a little bit. I saw all these big issues coming towards us as a farmer. And I was asked to give a positive story. Well, this is my slide, who is not so positive. And I'll also introduce some points already. So I was able to travel the world for my Nuffield scholarship. And I saw some worldwide issues that we're facing, I think, all over the world, and that are not little issues. So the number of farmers is decreasing. The average age of farmers is really high. We have no new entries or succession enough to give all the farms a new, sorry, I'm lost. I go further. The loss of biodiversity, the need and demand for clean water and air, more attention for healthy soil. I also look at all the movies on Netflix about the soil. Climate change, the climate adaptation, especially among farmers worldwide. We have like really strange weather conditions, extreme weather condition, or extreme water, wind, cold, drought, all kinds of things. We suffer in the east of the Netherlands 3 years of really severe drought the last 3 years. And well, it's not so good for my bank account. The average age, I already mentioned this, I think the current linear system of producing milk is not sustainable. So the only way I'm getting rewarded is the amount of milk, and the only reward of the only challenge for me is to deliver more milk. And I think that is not, the total system is in out of balance. So the next slide, please. And what you see worldwide also at a high level at the FIO, the United Nations, the Food System Summit, we're building a new sustainable food system. And I think as a farmer, it's the time to be at the table, because the big decisions are made right now. So you have to be on the stage, but how are you getting there? Because we are with less and less farmers. We are facing some wicked problems, and I think we, as a sector, as a dairy sector, we cannot solve all the problems by ourselves. We need society also to help to solve those big issues. And well, here's, I think, the turning points are these threats. Well, talking to Heleen Lansink, no, I see it as opportunities. And of course, it is hard and it is difficult. And sometimes I feel the pain. I feel, especially, for example, the bank account right now, we have like a high milk price, but the cost price is also high. So I feel the pain, but I see so much opportunities if you are at the table. So this is the right time. And I think we as farmers, well, I said it today as an example. Well, what can a hairdresser do to biodiversity? Well, I think not much. So we can bring the solution. So we're part of the solution. Well, the next slide, Yvonne, please. These are all personal photographs that I'm using in my presentation. So that's why I think that we need to storytell, to bring those nice stories, and also your difficulties and your problems and your choices that you're making to society, and let them cooperate to your solutions. But they do have to understand what kind of choices you make. So we do have a good story. We are producing safe, affordable food, so other people don't have to worry about it. This is a big thing. If you ask anybody to build their own potatoes, to grow their own apples or what, doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So this is a good story. We work close to nature. And well, especially if you have a family, I think the farmer is the excellent place to grow up as children. Although we have some puberty kids and they don't like it every time, all the day. But I think at the end they will do appreciate growing up at the farm. Well, and people, they love farm life, especially when you look in the Netherlands. We have some big farmer programs who are being heavily watched. And also, if you look at the new networks of Netflix series, I think the Little Big Farm and I forgot the name of the other movie about soil health. So the society debate is yeah, I think we are being loved. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but everybody wants the farm life. So Yvonne, you can slide to the next slide. So we do have also new demands from society, not only good, healthy and affordable food, but we have to deliver it with more biodiversity. We see a discussion about protein. Is it plant-based or animal-based? We see a lot of pressure among the use of chemical crop protection, about animal welfare, greenhouse gases. Those are not little issues. But what I do see is that all those issues we only can solve if we search for the society. And what I do in my strategy, I try to get society at the kitchen table. So I explain what kind of choices we make at headquarters, at home, in our case, the kitchen table. So I try to explain what kind of choices we made. So for example, it's also on the presentation I wrote about the use of Roundup, glyphosate. It's a very, very hot issue. And if you search for scientists who are for the use of glyphosate, you can find them, but also the scientists who are against it. So as a farmer, you have to choose what kind of direction you want to go. What I see in Europe, that I think there's going to be abandon of the use of Roundup. So what we did at the kitchen table is said, well, we don't use it anymore. We're going to try if we can also farm without the use of Roundup, and we already don't use Roundup anymore for 7 years. So it is possible, I think, as a dairy farmer. And what do? We make society co-responsible for the big challenges that we're facing, because I think, especially if you see the drought, if the drought is caused by the climate change, who is responsible for the climate change? I think the whole society is responsible for the climate change. And well, not the whole society is paying the bills for the drought. I'm paying the bills for the drought. So, oh, Yvonne has left the building again. Bad internet. So I'm gonna use the next slides. Hopefully Yvonne is coming back. And how I storytell is through our website. I have a blog on our website. I use the social media accounts like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And all those different platforms are used for different audience. So I use Facebook for my area around us. I use Twitter for like the national government and the media. I use Instagram for my younger viewers, because that is, and even TikTok, maybe it's much newer. Also, I have a TikTok account, but don't search me on that. I think it's not good. We do a lot of open farm days. I think that's very special. Every year we have an open farm day. I pay for it. I think it's yeah, we have to deliver that back to society to show the people how we produce their milk. We have school visits. So every primary school in my city, every child is visiting a farm in my city. And I think that is a good strategy for the city. It's also paid by the by my local community. So I think it's a very, it's all already standing for 25 years, I think. So we already are opening our doors for 15 years, I think, for school kids. And it's very interesting how the children are looking, what kind of perception they have of farmers. So I introduce always myself, well, here I am, I'm the farmer. And they look at me from upstairs to downstairs and will say, well, you don't wear wooden shoes, you don't wear a blue overall, I don't know the translation. You don't have like this hooivork in your hand. It's a typical Dutch drawing what the kids, and it's funny because you learn how they see the farm. And so we're learning also a lot when school children are visiting our farm. Yeah, and the best way is the mainstream media, because that is still the best transmitter for your story. So I was a few times on national radio, national television, and the amount of impact that you create when you're on national television or radio is enormous. So the next slide, please. Yes, Yvonne is back. How to be a successful storyteller? Well, that's interesting, but because you're not directly a successful storyteller. So I think it's a choice made by yourself that you want to be a storyteller, because otherwise it doesn't, yeah, people don't believe you. So you have to tell your own story, and you have to realize what kind of target group do I have in front of me. Are that government people? Are that financial people? Are that children? Are there interesting in the farm, or negatively or positively? So you always have to think, well, what is my story for that target group? Be careful to use technical terms like your feed coefficient, or how you say, or your protein or fat percentage in the milk or something. Doesn't say anything to the people unless you have a group of farmers in front of you. Choose your battles. It's interesting what my colleague speaker afterwards says about calves, but I never show calves, for example, on my social media because of the heavily debate who's already stolen by the animal
Activist.
groups. Yeah, activists, I think, yeah. So I always use a connecting communication. It means that I never judge anyone who has a different opinion. And I think it's very important, because otherwise you get in a fight with colleagues. So a lot of media always want me to say, well, other farmers are bad because they aren't organic or and not giving attention to the soil. Don't attempt to, don't allow you to say that about your colleagues. If you're working with pictures or films on your own farm, always be aware of what is in your background. So if you say, for example, also how do you call the calf crick, where you use for if a calf is stuck?
To get a calf born, to help it born.
Yes, yes. Never show that to the audience. So always be aware what is in the background on the videos. And what I did is search for colleague farmers who already are good on social media and good in storytelling. So I put in the presentation a few examples that I have. I didn't know what kind of countries were represented, but I searched Elizabeth Hammett. She is from the UK. Etienne, he's calling himself YouTuber. It's in français. It's in French. YouTube butter. Beurre is butter in English. He's very funny on Instagram, and he also has a big YouTube account. Meredith is from the United States, and Sandy Brock is a Canadian farmer, sheep farmer. So it's very interesting to look for good examples and do what they do, and always put your own color on your own story. So never, it has to be true. You have to be authentic. So I would ask Yvonne for the next slide, but I think she's gone again. Well, the next slide would be my successes. I am called, and it's hard to say that from yourself, but a farmer influencer. I'm often asked to give my opinion. It's not only for the fun, but it's also giving me a new income. So when I'm asked, I also earn a little bit money. So that is nice for me. Sometimes if you are in trials or something, and people do want to do trials at our farm, we get free products for the farm. So last year we get the corn seeds for free. And I was asked to blog up, make a little video about it. So you can use it also at a clever way. People want to cooperate with us. I'm a blog writer for an agricultural media platform. And the most important thing for me is that I'm able to do what I like and where I'm good in it. So the next slide and the last slide. Thank you very much. Let's connect on any kind of way. You can find me or Heleen Lansink or at the Melktapperij. And my challenge for you is be good and tell it. That was my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heleen. We have a question from Judith 4. How do you create an audience on Insta, or if you don't use your own name, like the farmer wife, sorry.
Yeah, how do you create yeah, it's just by doing it. And also when you are out there telling stories, I do a lot of events if there's no COVID. And I'm always ending, well, let's connect. And every event where I'm at, somebody is following me again. So that's my audience. But also you have to choose your moments when you are thinking. When the COVID, for example, just started, I made a video what the COVID was affecting us for our company. And I made a video and I told us, well, we can do our work. Our children are at home, but they have the space to play. The milk prices were under pressure, but okay. So it wasn't heavily affecting us. And I made a video and it showed it on my own social, and it was really good watched.
Are there some more questions? If you have an interesting question, you can do it live.
Can I make a remark? Yeah, I'm sorry to barge
Yeah.
in, but I came in, I fell in later.
No,
But,
okay, it's okay.
Yeah, okay, but no, okay. But I've got the microphone on. I'm not supposed to, am I? I should turn it off, am I not? I should be on mute.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Yeah,
You're
but
okay.
ask your question.
No, I don't really have a question. I'm not sure whether to turn the microphone off or on. If I want to buy a proper question, then I've got to write it. Am I not?
Yes, please.
Als ik wat wil vragen, dan moet ik eigenlijk de microfoon uitzetten. Maar ik heb hem nu aanstaan. Maar hij moet eigenlijk uit, of niet?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Some other questions?
Handle politics.
Oh yeah, and handle politicals van Gerard Schepens.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
a good
Well,
question.
that's interesting because you have to choose your battles. So if you're, I think, for example, my blog on the agricultural media platform is really well read by the politicians in the Netherlands, because I get compliments by person on Twitter or that I wrote a good blog or something. So, but it's also who are you able to influence with your story, and you also have to choose whether they are able to listen to your story or they are busy with other kinds of things. For example, right now we're still in an how do you say, formation process in the Netherlands. We had like election in March. I'm always almost ashamed that I have to tell it in the Netherlands, but we're still forming a new parliament. And right now I think they're already made that choices how they're gonna handle the nitrogen crisis, but are also very, how you say, vulnerable to hear some new perspectives. So for example, on Thursday, I have a meeting by coincidence with two national politicians.
Yeah, and one question from Bertolt is, do you invite people on the farm and they can take a look? Yeah.
Yes.
You do it for free, or you ask a little amount of money, or
when companies are asking me to tell the story, they get like a normal price for a presenter. But when just ordinary people are visiting, I always say, well, if you want to share a free gift, and I let the amount of money by the visitor.
I think we keep it like this, and maybe at the end, after Holger's presentation, we can organize a small round table or panel discussion as well. Thank you, Heleen.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Is Yvonne back? Yes, great. We are very proud that we have Holm and Laue as our business partner. I think Holm and Laue is active in a real interesting segment of the dairy farming now. Especially the last years, you see a kind of a development of more focus on calf rearing. They are an important link in the first stage of a cow's life, and many farmers now realize the importance of the first phase of it and invest in it as well. They want to raise healthy calves, no dropouts, no diseases, problem-free rearing, so that you can inseminate your calves, heifers, on a young age. I think it's quite possible. We've been realized at our farm for the last 3-4 years. I'm curious about innovations around calf rearing, and I'm sure that Holger will share the newest insights. Holger, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Ed. Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the possibility to present. I think, Yvonne, you should stop sharing the screen, huh? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the possibility to take part in this last GDF webinar this year. Yeah, the topic of looking optimistic to the future, like you said earlier, is a neutral one for us, a normal one for us, because we are dealing with the next generation of animals on the dairy farm. So Holm and Laue, we are producer of feeding equipment for calves, automatic calf feeders, milk taxis. We also design and build calf housing solutions. So yeah, we take care about the little ones on the farm, and I think Heleen is right. We especially the calf rearing part is one of the most criticized ones in the public. That's true, because and we see this in other areas of agriculture as well. Huh? So when we look at poultry, when we look at pigs, it's all about the little chicks which are killed right after hatched, or when we see that piglets are cut off their tails and these kind of things. It's a huge discussion. And of course, also the discussion of separating calf and mother right after birth is criticized. Yeah, nevertheless, we don't want to focus so much on the negative parts. We want to focus on maybe what is positive and what good news can we spread, and especially when you want to create some storytelling, maybe I can give you a little bit ammunition for your future conversations. So I will try to share my screen here. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, so yeah, I named my presentation "Good News from the Calf Barn, Great News for the Farmers." And I think it's time for some great news, because we really see a lot of bad news in the dairy industry, and we don't need to discuss these points here. Heleen has mentioned them as well, and you are all aware. But just recently, I've been on a meeting, and quite well-known economist from Germany, from the Chamber of Agriculture from Lower Saxony. He was presenting a slide about the profit on dairy farms. So he's monitoring the economic situation on dairy farms, and what you can see here on this slide is that with his dairy farms, he was looking at the influence on the milk price relating to the farm profit. And you can see here that maybe half of the farms were not making profit. You can see here on the right-hand side, so 0 line, that's the profit line. And the higher the income, the farm income, of course, there seems to be a tendency that these farms make a little bit more money. But actually what we see here is just a big cloud, which tells me there is no real difference if I have a good milk price or a bad milk price. That's not really making a difference when it comes to profit on my farm. But what was really promising is that the production cost, they had a clear influence on farm profit. And I think this is good news, because we as a farmer are not able to to generate a higher milk price. Right now, the milk price is good. That's not a question, but we have no influence in this. But we have an influence to control our production cost. So the lower the production cost, of course, the higher the income, and this is something which the farmers can really influence. So we are able to generate our own positive future by looking at our production on the farm. So and like I said, since we are working in the calf rearing part of the dairy farms, this is a very, very small area. But what we have realized and what science has proved, we are able to make a difference. We are able to, with good calf rearing, to generate very high productive animals, which produce good milk, which are very cost effective, and which are healthy and show good animal welfare. So I have a few points which I would like to discuss with you in this very short presentation. Every one of these topics could easily handle a complete webinar, so please don't be mad at me if I rush through this quite quickly, but I just would like to give you some important points and topics. The first good news, which I see, is, and this has been proved on many farms, it is possible to generate zero calf mortality on the farms, even without using antibiotics or any hard medicines. And we are able to do this if we are able to improve our colostrum management. And every second presentation about calf rearing is about good colostrum management, and we're talking about this since years and decades and even maybe generations, but we are still not making it right. So we know that with good colostrum management, we are able to rear healthy calves from the start to the end. And this even leads into a higher productive cows, where calves with good colostrum supply produce later on more milk. So what do you need to do to have good colostrum management? Like I said, we need to generate. We could make a full presentation just on colostrum management for 2 hours without any issues, without any problems. The first thing what you should do is you should always test your colostrum quality. With a refractometer, the quality has to be above 22% Brix reading. That is very, very important. So that's the first investment you need to do, buy a refractometer. Second thing, so you should feed minimum 4 liters of colostrum within the first 2 hours of life. I know this is a big challenge because we are not able to influence when the calf is born throughout the day, but try to set up standards in your dairy farm that you are able to feed these calves at least 10% of their body weight within the first 2 hours of life. If your quality of colostrum is not good enough, you should use colostrum from a frozen storage, where you store your top quality colostrum. And I even would go one step further. I would even use the frozen storage as a standard procedure. Because if you don't need to milk the cow right after birth, you're saving time and you're closer to these 2 hours after birth. So just think about that. Quality of the colostrum is of utmost important. And as well, what you should do is you should check the immunity of your calves. And you can do this very easily by taking blood samples after 2 days of life. and use the refractometer, which you just have bored, and test the blood serum protein of your calves, and just to see if your colostrum management is good, if your calves are well protected. That is that's very important. So these 4 points, they make sure that your calves have a healthy start and stay healthy as well. So, I mean, this sounds easy, but I know in the daily work on the dairy farm, it needs to you need to have some protocols implemented. What else? Yeah, transit milk should be fed as long as it's available. We are not able to boost the immunity of the calf, but we are able to fight bacteria local in the digestive system. So these calves will benefit from that. And the most important part is provide best hygiene at calving and when milking. So the quality of the milk can only get worse once you have milked this milk into your buckets. So this is very important. Because right after birth, it's a race between bacteria and between global lines. And whoever comes first takes over the calf. So that's a point. But yeah, colostrum management, if you're able to do this right, you will have great results. So that's the first good news I have. And like I said, it's not new. So I've not invented this system, and we know about the importance of colostrum for many years, but yeah, on too many farms, it's not being handled correctly. Something which is quite popular in Germany, some other parts of Europe as well, and I hope it spreads throughout the world, is also that it makes sense to feed the calves with a lot of milk. I call this intensive calf feeding. Some people call that ad-lib feeding, some people call that metabolic programming, whatever you call it. If we are feeding more energy to our calves, these calves will produce more milk as an adult, and they will stay longer in the herd. So better health, longer longevity. So we'll have a more stable animal. So why should we do this? Intensive feeding actually meets the natural feeding behavior of our calves. We still see a lot of dairy farms who are feeding 2 times 2, 2 times 3 liters of milk in the morning and the evening, so to these calves. And this is really not the natural feeding behavior. These calves, when they are left with their mother, they would drink as much as possible, and this can easily be above 10 liters, 12, 14, 15, 16, even 20 liters. So by feeding more milk to these calves, we are meeting the natural demands and feeding behavior of these calves. And they give us something back. So they give us back better robustness. They are more healthy. They go through difficult periods, bad winter season, like now here in Northern Europe. It's getting cold, it's wet and not really pleasant. It's a very difficult time for these calves. And if we feed enough energy, they can grow really, really well. And also what they give us back is a better weight development. And if these calves are growing faster, we are able to breed them earlier. This is reducing our calving age. And we all know it's very expensive to rear heifers. Yeah, the later the calving age, the more cost that adds to the milk production. And here we are able to make a difference. So what are we doing when we feed these calves with more milk? Actually, we are developing the cell tissue, so udder cells and follicle growth already in this very, very early phase. And now I need to be a little bit scientific. I'm sorry for that, but I would like to show you something, some research which have been done 15 years ago, and we even have some more recent studies about that. So here they have done a trial where they were feeding two groups of calf, one group with a low concentration of energy and the other group with a high concentration of energy. And this is within the first, from the 2nd to the 8 weeks of age, so the young calves. And after 8 weeks, they could see that these calves produced fat with a high energy amount. They had 3 times the amount of udder cells. You can see here, very little amount in total, but 3 times more than the calves fed with a low energy concentration. So, so we see here that there's a positive influence which we can do to these calves, because we need udder cells later to produce milk. So if we've seen this this table, this results, we could think, okay, yeah, maybe I've not done it right within the first 8 weeks, but after 8 weeks now I feed more energy just to correct my mistake. And they have done this as well. So they prolonged this trial from 8 weeks to 14 weeks, splitting these group into low energy and high energy. They've done the same with a high energy group from the early part. And you can see here, there's no difference anymore. So the other cell development is about the same. So we have a possibility to positively influence the other tissue development with feeding in the first 8 weeks of life. So that's a unique possibility, and it will never come back. After that, we can only make it worse. So we all know if we're feeding heifers too much energy, they are only getting fat, and they have problems with milk production, with metabolic issues, and so on. So, and that means we have a better milk production, and not only a better peak, but also a better persistency. And even more than that, I mean, another important point for dairy cows is the fertility. We also know that feeding more energy to little calves produce heifers and cows with better fertility. And also here, I need to rush through this slide. And if you would like to know these information, you can send me a mail or whatever, and I can hand you out these researches. But here also we have a trial where they were feeding a low amount of energy and high amount of energy, and you can see that the quality of the follicles was better when we're feeding a higher amount of energy. The calves had a higher body weight, which we know, but also the uterine wall was thicker, and more follicles, and this remains in the animal later on. So here we have a real positive effect. So we have better fertility, and we are able to feed these animals more, to milk these animals, these cows, more lactations, which generates more income. And last but not least, if we have an earlier calving age, as I mentioned before, we need less space for replacement heifers. So, and this is a massive cost saving. So in this table here from Robert Corbett, he was calculating, for example, the number of heifer places you need in your heifer barn, and if you have a cull rate of 30%, for example, and you have a calving age first calving age of 28 months, so you need about 90 places for your heifers. And if you are able to reduce your calving age to 24 months and you're able to increase your cull rate or reduce your cull rate, to 24, 25, you would only need 50 to 60. So 30 heifers less to rear on your farm. 30 heifers you are able to sell to your neighbor or whoever. Yeah. So it makes sense to think about feeding more energy to these calves. This can easily increase your milk replacer cost by 50, 60%. But I would say, so what? So if we have great results after that, this pays back really, really quick. And now, I know I need to hurry up a little bit. Now, another aspect. We've been criticized that we are taking away the calf from the mother. The calf is a social animal, and putting them in individual hutches is very much criticized. And I'm pretty positive that this will be forbidden within the next 5 or 6 years, at least in Europe. But we know that if we keep calves in little groups, like groups of 2, pairing of calves, this will be much better accepted by consumers, but it also improves the performance of the calves, because these calves, they show more playing behavior, so they have a positive social development. They learn from each other positive social behaviors. They gain, they learn each other how to eat, how to drink. They are more adaptive to new situations, so they are more stress tolerant. Yeah, like I said, they have higher feed intake and they also have higher weight gains. So it's not a real. Some people say calf need to be separated so that they don't interact and transfer diseases. I think if we are managing calves in a good way, we can have them in groups. If that's 2 or 3 or 5 calves, no matter, the smallest group would be 2, and you would have a much better acceptance by the public if you do it this way. Yeah, and another point, and again, sorry to rush through this, is that we should think of using our own farm resources. Feeding whole milk to calves saves money and supports your calves, because whole milk is a very high quality feed, which is produced on your farm, and there are very good reasons to do that. Yeah, the first and biggest reason is that the digestibility of this of the natural casein is very high, and it's very easy for the calves to digest. And especially when we want to feed a lot of milk to these calves, high play nutrition feeding curves, then whole milk is perfect for that. Yeah. Because it's actually available on every dairy farm, and you can even use waste milk. Maybe I need to explain that a little bit. Waste milk and transition milk, milk which you are not able to send to your dairy factory. Maybe this is milk with high cell counts or whatever. I'm not talking about milk containing antibiotics. They should never be fed to calves, because we have the possibility to create resistance against these antibiotics on the farm, and that's not what we want. But milk containing bacteria or not of the best quality can be easily used if we pasteurize them on the farm, and there are different solutions for that available for really every farm, every type of farm you can have. Some things to consider, because whole milk is not only easy. We need to supplement some trace elements like iron or even vitamins. So some whole milk additives need to be added to the milk. Also, the total solids in the whole milk can vary. and needs to correct it by milk replacer. With automatic calf feeders, like here in this example, this can be easily done, just feeding whole milk and adding a certain amount of milk replacer to compensate for the lack of trace elements and also dry matter. And especially what we would recommend to use whole milk feeding, especially for younger calves, and then wean them later on with milk replacer, because normally you should not have enough waste milk on your farm to feed all your calves, hopefully not. So a combination of both, I think, is perfect, and that's very important.
Okay, 2 more minutes.
Yeah, you see my last slide.
Perfect.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Perfect.
Yeah, the first take-home message: we are able to generate our own success. Yeah, so we don't rely on high milk price. Of course, a high milk price is nice to have, but we have the possibility to have a much better impact by doing the things on the farm as good as possible. And when we look at the farms, at the calves, colostrum feeding is one of these things. So we are able to generate perfect calf health by good colostrum management. So we are able to program our calves for future performance. So by feeding more energy, we are producing an animal, or we are developing an animal which is stress tolerant and possible to produce a lot of milk. We are able to offer more animal welfare, and even this animal welfare, this extra animal welfare, can bring economic advantages. It's not only that we have to invest in animal welfare; it also can bring something back, and that's something we should think of. Yeah, think about how to use whole milk, because that is meeting the natural demands of your calves, and is using your own farm resources. Yeah, last but not least, healthy calves, easy work, great fun on the calf barn. That's, I think, what we would like to have everywhere, and I wish you that is happening on your farm as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Holger. I think we have some interesting questions. A couple of people has a question about pairing. If you do 2 calves together, what is the best moment?
As soon as possible. I would say they should be close together with age. Yeah, maximum 2 or 3 days, not more than that. Feed them colostrum, and then bring them together as early as possible.
But you show some pictures of two calves in a hutch, and you have 2 buckets, or
they have 2 buckets. You can have a bucket with 2 teats as well. If you feed them a lot of milk, it will not be a problem. If you feed them restricted milk, it's a problem, because then you can have the problem that one calf is stealing milk from the other. So if you offer them a high amount of milk anyhow, then that's not a big deal.
And
be careful. Be careful with the hutches. They need to be big enough. Most of the hutches which are on the market are not big enough to house 2 calves.
Yeah. No problems with suckling?
There are problems with suckling, yes. Yeah. But
how do you manage that?
Feed more milk.
All right. Yeah.
Feed more milk. I mean, there are differences in race. So when we go to Bavaria, the Simmental breeds, they are more susceptible to that. Yeah, with Holstein calves, we normally don't have that many issues when we feed them enough milk. Yeah.
I have a question here about if you want to improve your herd, you could better sell a lot of young stock, calves and heifers and the bad ones.
Your bad
it will
heifers,
agree.
if you follow my recommendation, your bad heifers will be better than his best heifers.
Yeah. And I've here, I think this is the last question for you. A question from Andrew. Holger, did you say to use a refractometer to measure blood of 2-day-old calves?
Yeah.
And what will be the target? Or?
Okay, so what you do is, you when they're 2 days old, you take a blood sample, you ask your vet how to do it. I mean, after some training, you can easily do that. Use these glass pipes to put from the vet to put the blood sample in there. Leave them in the fridge for overnight, and then you have the blood separated, and then you have the light serum on top, and you take a drop of that serum, so the light one, not the red one, on your refractometer, and your Brix reading should be above 7.5, I think, to have a good.
So it's a kind of an evidence of the colostrum quality.
Yes, yeah, of your colostrum management. Not only the quality, also if the calves have enough milk, if you are early enough. So it's really you're measuring the protein level in your blood, and the protein level of the blood equals with also then with the global lines which these calves have consumed. If you want to know more, go to the Holm and Laue webpage, go to the blog, and there we have a story about how to use refractometers.
Yeah, thank you. I think we will keep Heleen on board now, and then maybe there are some other questions for both of you. Yeah, I think we try to stop at 9:30, but it doesn't matter if it's a bit longer. Heleen is on board too?
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience?
I did get a question from the chat. I think what I do with activists.
Yeah.
If they are if they're able to enter my farm, well, I always ask them if they're willing to hear my perspective, and if we can talk with respect to each other. So you can be critical, and you can ask me difficult questions, but they have to listen to my perspective.
Yeah, I have a question to you, Heleen. You are so active on social media, and what will be the next step, or will it become bigger and bigger? And do you see a kind of development in your neighborhood, or for other farmers, or what is your impression about it?
Yeah, it's a good question, because what is my next step? Because for me, it's always because I'm not in a board or a representative at the farmers representation, or in a political party or something. I'm often being asked, but I think in the social debate, there is a need for farmers with no boundaries. So there is a need for farmers with real stories. What is causing like regulation on your farm? What is the real story, and not influenced by political color or the how you say the standpunt from the Farmers Federation, the point of view of the Farmers Federation. And I think so too, but it is pressuring me to make choices. And what I see around me is I do get, so I'm also interested if there are more female farmers around here this evening compared to the other evenings, because what I do is, I think, is how you say, connecting more to female farmers, because it's closer to their natural habitat, to connect with people. To mostly of my female farmer colleagues do still have a job outside the farm, so they are the perfect example to engage with society. So I think a lot of female farmers are trying to tell the story from the farm. So the amount of social media accounts run by female farmers is really high.
Yeah. And Holger, you travel a lot, all over the world. And what do you think about this story of Heleen? What's your opinion? It is the way to go?
I think it's great, and I think we all have to spread the word. So about what we are doing, I think we can be proud of what we are doing, because over here in Germany,
industry.
yeah, here in Germany we always say being a farmer is the most important job in the world, because only we are able to feed the world, and that's something what we sometimes forget. And I think with all the political and social problems we have in the society and everything, it is critical. And I think we should also take the chance to go on the streets and tell our story. We are also able to go and demonstrate with tractors or whatever. But at the end, I think what the people want to hear is not another farmer complaining about his situation. Because we need to have positive stories, and everybody here in this group has a reason of being a farmer, and if that's only a very small reason, it's already much. It tells much more about yourself and about what we are in agriculture than just go on the street and with our large tractor and say, okay. The whole world is against us.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think you mentioned at a certain slide the economic results, the profit. That was 20 years ago the same, and 30 years ago also. You have good farmers and bad farmers and technical results, and we can have a nice story, but we also need to make money.
Yes.
To tell the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
and the number of farmers is decreasing. Yeah, it was 10 years ago, it was 15 years ago, and you see it everywhere in the world. Yeah.
And it will continue.
That will continue. Yeah.
And with the increasing ecological regulations which we will receive can be again just be met by larger farms, and at the end the society receives farms which they never wanted. Yeah. Because all the little farms are out of business. And this is why we have to go out and tell them, okay, it's not bad to be big.
Yeah. This one, it's a question for Heleen. What is the big challenge is now how to mix, how to adapt the position of the farmer, best practice approach on how to perform better.
I think we need to also answering the question in front. I think as farmers we need a new position in society. We're not only creating good, affordable food, but we're also creating these services for society. So I think, in my opinion, in my future perspective, that my income is not all about milk, but also with those separated services I can provide. So like clean water, healthy soils, biodiversity, and it's separated because only if you separate those services, you can also, how you say, I'm sorry, my children are shouting, so I'm a little bit distracted. But only then you can create cooperation from society. If it's visible that you create biodiversity and not only pushed in the product, in the end product, because, I do still think that is a way that we have to walk, but it's not a solution for all the big problems.
Yeah. And there's a question in the chat. How can get the youth, the future farmers who now are in school, add to the storytelling? Maybe you read it, but you can read it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
For you, Heleen.
Yeah, I do think the new young farmers are really aware of the social debate that they're on, because they already made the choice to take over the farm or not.
Yeah.
And if they take over the farm, they already know that it's going to be different than the father or mother, the generation in front of them took over the farm. So it's not, I think, especially in the Netherlands, normally we saw like every new generation, the amount of cows doubled. And I know that is not a normal way to take over the farm anymore. So, and it's different. It's also depending on how much space they get from the parents to explore themselves. So often we often get the students at our farm to all kinds of projects, but you can hear whether the father is talking or the son is given the space from the father.
Yeah, that's
Or
different.
mother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I can tell my personal story. When I was a kid, we had a dairy farm at home with 30 cows, and I wanted to be a farmer. I really wanted to be a farmer. And when I was 17 years old, finished school, and I went on a dairy farm for apprenticeship. And then my father said, "Oh, Holger, our farm is not really doing well. Maybe you should do something else." And I said, "No, I want to do this here." And but yeah, the discussion went on, and at the end, I decided, okay. I'll go to the university, and after university, I found something else, and the farm stopped.
Yeah.
So from home, I received negative feedback. I'm not sure. I mean, of course, in the 80s, 30 cows was not a big farm, but it was not a small one either. So, and if I would have more support from my parents, maybe I would be a farmer right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting what you say, because we have 4 children. The youngest one is a boy, and the oldest, and the rest is girl. And what you see at our farm is that there is like a new way that they can explore. Like the eldest girl, she does like tours around our farm for children. But when it's a holiday break, she gets the camera and says, "Well, I provide you a tour on the farm. If you want to come, you have to pay €1 and I'll show you the farm." And it's really working. So you also see, when you are changing the strategy of the farm, there also are new opportunities to the horizon.
Yeah.
And I think also make your kids tell the story. If you are not the person who is great with social media or whatever, your kids are, and give them your Facebook or Instagram account, or let them create an account and tell your farm story. Why not make it a project?
Yes.
Yeah. I've 2 questions for one for Holger and one from Heleen. Holger, about the new situation in Germany. What do you think that it means? Yeah, we already discussed it before, but
Was my first question to Holger.
what will it mean for Europe or for German farmers? Progressive, greener? What do you think?
Of course, greener. I mean, that's for sure, and it will be greener. Agriculture is one of the key parts of the green politic. So they want to turn the whole German agriculture into organic farming. So this is what they want. They said this quite clearly. If they succeed, I don't know, but and I'm pretty sure that they will use their influence in Europe as well.
So the first step of Holm and Laue is put 2 calves in one hutch.
Yeah, I mean we are doing this already for
no, I'm
6,
kidding.
7 years. So
the last question for Heleen is if it's possible. Yeah, what is, we have a lot of farmers in the audience. What is a take-home message for us?
Tell your story, begin. You don't have to do the same thing as me, big and on national TV, but tell your story. Start tomorrow when your brother is giving his holiday. Oh, well, everybody is in lockdown almost, but tell your story, tell your possibilities, but also share your difficulties, share your choices, make other people part of your decisions and your choices that you have to make. So start tomorrow, start little, start nearby your own house, but start sharing your story.
Super, thank you.
Welcome.
Holger and Heleen, thank you very much for your both presentations, and maybe people can raise their hand for Holger and Heleen. See many hands. Yes, great. The next, this is an announcement of a webinar of next week. It's a webinar of calf tail and together with Holm and Laue. Maybe you can, we can share the data as PDF via our website or via the mail. Yeah. The next slide is our agenda for next year. We will go on with meetings like this. We have already some topics in mind. We try to organize a mini congress in Ireland, March 22. We visited Ireland almost 10 years ago. Dairy Master, Moore Park, about the future of Ireland, and we were interested how it's now going on. In June we have a mini congress together with FIV Europe. It's a bit we have a close cooperation with FIV, and it works very well and very progressive, and we look forward to it. We try to organize a study trip in Kenya, August. We join a trip to Rwanda, probably. It's not on the agenda, and there are some other happenings, other events in mind. We have our congress, our main congress in South America, the end of November. 2 countries, Argentina and Brazil, the south of Brazil. And Argentina, we talk about the region, Cordoba, Rosario, Rafaela, Santa Fe, and where we work together with an agency to organize it. So, but we try to do 2 countries. March 22, we have, I think it's the 3rd or the 4th time we will join FIV Asia in Bangkok. That's a huge happening together with FIV. So I will come to the end of this event. If there are any questions, you can always contact us. It was a nice webinar. We have a lot of new participants, and we are always open for new farmers, new business farmers, new business partners. So I wish you all the best. Good luck and goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.